You ready for the video?
Yes, I am.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Awesome. I love this animation.
I know. And the music too. Astral, how do you say it?
Astro travel?
Yes. Ooh, your womb space. I'm really big into womb healing. Wow. That's a really cool perspective.
Present practice. What's conscious? This is Vish and
Hannah.
And today we'll be responding to Sadhguru's video on
Is astral travel possible?
So today I'm here with Hannah. Want to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Hannah. Hello, everyone. I'm based in Austin, Texas. I'm a 25-year-old entrepreneur, and I'm so excited to be here.
Well, thank you for being here. And where can they find you?
My Instagram handle is sacred_woman.
Awesome. And I'm an aspiring yogi. I've been meditating for over 4 years now, and I love all things wisdom, meditation, yoga based. And before we start, have you heard of Sadhguru before?
I have. I've checked out a couple of his videos, and I really align with his perspective.
Well, thanks for sharing. We actually did a couple videos right now, so super excited for this one. And real quickly, what are your thoughts on astral travel?
I'm a student of it. Like, I feel like I've experienced it before, but I don't know too much about it. So I'm here just to learn and see more about it.
Perfect. And before we start, we'd love to hear what you think about astral travel, whether it's possible, whether it's not, whether you think Sadhguru is going to say it's a real thing or not, in the comments down below. And with that,
let's get started.
Awesome.
What is being referred to as astral body is just allowing the etheric body to float around. It needs enormous sadhana for a person to do that. Getting the pranic body out and putting it back is easy. Etheric body needs much more sadhana.
I love this animation.
I know. And the music too.
They say that you can just lie down on it. Not anyone, but people who experience astral journey go out of their body, stay out for some time and then come back.
See, most of the people, I know there are a lot of stuff going on here. In United States, everybody is doing astral journeys. It's just hallucination, okay? You lie down and just imagine that you're flying here, flying there. That's not it. Unfortunately, everything becomes ridiculous when all kinds of people start handling it. What is being referred to as astral is, there are 5 kinds of bodies: physical body, mental body, energy body, etheric body and bliss body. These are 5 dimensions of the body. We are referring to everything as body in yoga so that you can understand it as a physical entity. Though the last 2 are not physical, still we are referring to it as a body because yoga is a method, not a philosophy. It is not a philosophy, it is a method. So we are seeing how to employ a certain method to make use of certain things. What is being referred to as astral body is leaving the physical body, mental body, energy body and the bliss body intact and just allowing the etheric body to float around. That means you can conduct your activity here because your physical body, mental body, energy body is intact. But just allowing the etheric body to go, that's a certain kind of mastery. You can't just psych yourself into it. It needs enormous sadhana for a person to do that. Compared to etheric body, pranic body is physical. It's more physical kind of presence. It's energy, but it's a physical energy. Etheric is a transitory energy. It is neither physical nor beyond, it is a transition. Bliss body is totally beyond the physical. So, getting the pranic body out and putting it back is easy and it's a much stronger experience because a physical part of you goes out and gets back. Etheric body needs much more sadhana. because that is not even in your experience, it is not something that you can touch unless you're in a certain level of sadhana and intensity within yourself. But every street corner they are doing astral travel these days. That's just hallucination.
So Hannah, this was quite an interesting one. What are your views on it?
I liked it. I really like how he explained it too, especially since I'm not super familiar with that practice. But I think to me, whenever he said like hallucinations, it brought me to the thought of like being a visionary and also just being in that like dream state of being able to like see in the future, or like he said, like just like see yourself flying. But I also agree where he was saying it gets a little deeper than that. And that was my first time hearing about the 5 like levels of the body. So that was interesting to gain that new awareness. But yeah, I would agree with him. I think it is a hallucination, but also you are able to tap in deeper too.
That's, again, great insight. I appreciate you sharing that. And yeah, definitely lots of new stuff here. I've heard of the term ish and like heard about out-of-body experiences. And I do want to point out he brings a great light to the hallucination aspect of it, in the sense that sometimes it's just in our head and maybe it's not real, right? And the existential. And that's where he even talks about maybe even certain drugs. Not to say that drugs are good or bad. There's no good or bad in that. It just comes down to sometimes it can trigger an hallucination state where you think you're experiencing something spiritual or something whatever, but it's not really happening. So just again, another light to what could be happening. Not to say that it is the case for everyone. And with regards to the word sadhana, I'm not sure if you heard him say that, but he did say that in order to leave the etheric body, which is that transition or transitory body, you need to be doing lots of sadhana. Do you know what that is?
I do not know what that is.
I got you then. So sadhana really just comes down to, you can call it spiritual practice. So there is no one way to do it. Like, people have their own forms of spiritual practice. Every time you partake in a spiritual practice, that is your sadhana. And the idea is that you want to make it as routine and regular as possible. The more you exercise that, the more they're able to tap into these type of states or whatever spiritual dimensions, whatever that means. Do you have any sadhana or spiritual practices of yourself?
Yeah, I would say yoga has been a beautiful one for me lately. I think just being able to be aware of like your body and your mind at the same time, like that's something that resonates with me, because we're here in the physical body, but sometimes our mind can be off, and that might be astro. How do you say it?
Astro travel?
Yes.
Astral travel.
Like that's where like, our mental space like can be off in another realm, another dimension. So yeah, I would say yoga for me has been a really good practice to like come in the middle and not be so off into like the mental space and like tapping back into like the physical body. How about you?
Thanks for asking. And I'm curious, before I get into mine, what kind of yoga do you do?
Honestly, I didn't know that there was different types of yoga, so that's interesting. But really just whatever my body feels called to. I feel like at the beginning I put a lot of pressure on myself to like do certain moves, and then I realized that like my body needs to just adapt to the new motion. So whatever my body feels called to, sometimes, just like really just sitting there and like laying there, like trying just to listen to her and like where she's wanting to do versus like be so structured, really tapping into like that flow state.
That was super cool. And I want to ask you this a bit more, because I think that was interesting. You said listening to her. Who's that her?
Ooh, your womb space. I'm really, really big into womb healing, and like showing people how beautiful that space can be once you start listening. So just referring to her as like that feminine, that like central, that space where we all come from.
Is it like also the natural intelligence of the body? Is that another way to describe it?
I like that. Yeah, I think that's a really, really good term to use, because when we listen to the body, like don't realize how much the body is wanting.
Exactly. And thank you for sharing that. That was super cool to hear. And actually going off of that, I think it's super important, the intelligence of the body, because as Sadhguru says, we actually have, at least most of us, before getting to that, let me ask you some questions, and we'd love to just get some light on what you think and what most people think. So for you watching, what does the word intelligence mean? I'm super curious. Comment down below right now. And so for you, Hannah, what does the word intelligence mean to you?
From my own definition, it would really just imply the experience that you gained off of it, the new awareness that you were able to learn. So I'm a big believer on everyone can experience it in a different way. So even though yes, intelligence has its own definition, I feel it really determines on what you're feeling too. So that would be my definition, is just really the experience and the awareness that you have.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. I think it's definitely pretty close, or at least, again, I don't think there's a set definition per se, but Sadhguru does talk about how important the intelligence is of that of the universe, or even that of the body. In fact, I think most of us tend to associate intelligence with the intellect, the mind, right? And that's the only intelligence, and that's what I used to think, and that's why I was curious as to what you all thought and what you thought too. But it's actually a much deeper thing. In fact, the memory, for example, memory is one dimension of intelligence. We tend to associate memory with just our remembering of experiences. But if you think about it, there's evolutionary memory, there's genetic memory. In fact, according to Sadhguru, just like the skin, even just for the skin, my hands right here, to be intact, requires a tremendous amount of memory or intelligence, and is actually much more deeper than your mind.
Wow. That's a really, really cool perspective, and I like that. I'm going to adopt that for now on. It actually brings me to the thought, even when you said skin, our cells on a deeper level, they remember, and the more we feed our body, and the more we exercise our mind, and just really hone in on all levels of essentially areas in our life that bring us to that thriving space. We remember, going back on a ancestral level too. It's crazy how much we can actually remember, and not being so tapped into the mind, our body knows. Exactly.
I appreciate you connecting with that as well. And the last question I had was yoga, right? Because you were mentioning yoga. For those of you who are watching, what does the word yoga mean to you? Comment down below. Hannah, what does yoga mean to you?
Yoga, what it means to me is just being, being in the body, being in the moment, being in the motion as well, and honoring it too. I would say that's what yoga means to me.
Beautiful. That's actually really very close to what I've heard of the view on it, and definitely I would say a deeper layer than what I think most of us think of as yoga, because we tend to associate it with just a fitness and body activity, but actually yoga translates to union, literally. And so it's actually a whole science to get that union, whether it's through the intellectual. Is actually, without getting into too much detail here, there's 4 paths in the yogic sciences towards liberation. What does that liberation mean? It means to break the bounds that tie you into this limited, egoic almost level. And so the idea is to break that bounds to tap into that universe, and that's the union with everything. And so there's 4 paths. There's Gyan, which means intellect. So you can do that through the intellectual mind. Really rare and difficult, as Sadhguru says, but people that do have this gift, they're again, this is what he says. I'm not sure how true it is because I've never experienced it. I don't know anyone like this, just things I've heard. Apparently people that have, or that are on the Gyan path are 100x or 1000x as smart as Einstein. So just imagine how hard that is. Then there's Bhakti. Have you heard of Bhakti? Bhakti means devotion. So in fact, a lot of the religions tend to kind of have a certain level of connection to this path where it's just purely giving yourself up to some God or whatever it might be, but it's really just emotion based. Then there's karma, which means action. So it's more practical. So like essentially everything you do, being present, it's more action oriented. And lastly, it's called kriya. Have you heard of kriya?
I have. That word sounds familiar.
So kriya means, literally it means internal action. So it's the opposite of karma. Karma means external, kriya is internal. And I almost view it as energy work because there's all these energies, there's the chakras, the nadis, all these different pathways and channels within us. And so, long story short, working on that is also another path towards liberation or eventually achieving yoga.
I love that. Thank you.
Of course, a little lesson, just something I've learned myself recently, so I was super excited to share it and share with you as well. And yeah, thank you so much, Hannah, for being here. I really appreciated the insight as well as just your presence. And remind the viewers, where can they find you again?
My Instagram handle is at sacred_wombman. You can find me there if you want to connect. I love sharing information on womb healing, veganism, cryptocurrency, initially how to help people tap into their health and wealth.
She makes some really cool content. She's also super kind, so show her some love and check out her content, which will all be down below. And if you have any other video reaction requests, please also comment down below. And with that, make a great day, take it joyfully, and stay conscious. Awesome job, Hannah.
Oh,
Did great.